So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. And let's start with a grounding. And just take some deep breaths. I invite you just to kind of get into your body, feeling yourself supported and held by Gaia, held by this beautiful planet. Bring yourself into your heart, enliven yourself with your breath. And then drop your attention down into your root and just take your breath and fill up that entire space with your breath. Envision a grounding cord that is as wide as your body. And we're going to ask Gaia to receive this grounding cord. Then we're going to see it going down into the upper layers of the earth. And then I'm going to give you some options of how you can have this grounding cord go down. That some people do not like the image of going down into the center of the earth just with a cord. And so if you want to find another way down, you can use a dragon. You can ask a guide to take you down. You can see water or fire or any of the elements as your entryway into the earth. Whatever way you choose, I am envisioning that it is an effortless journey to the center of the earth. And we are going to journey down and we are going to meet Gaia in the center of the earth. And we're just going to take a space here for a moment where you can listen to her and see what message that she might have for you today. Offering gratitude to her, and then seeing this beautiful golden light coming up into the cord and flowing up all the way up into the root of your body. It's beautiful golden light filling up this space. And then we're going to see it enlivening each of our energy centers, each of our chakras in turn, going from the root, the solar plexus, the root to the sacral, to the solar plexus, heart, high heart, throat, third eye, crown, and just a little bit above your head into the 8th chakra. And then seeing this energy flowing out your crown, up and around, just filling you and your space with this beautiful golden light. You are enclosed and protected in this beautiful sphere. And giving some breaths into this space, up and under, in front, beside, and behind you. Giving attention to those places that you might have neglected, you might have forgotten. And then we're going to connect into Source. And we're going to see this as either, I'm going to give you an option here as well. You can connect to the center of this universe, seeing Source here, or you may feel called that we live in a multiverse, and you may feel called to connect into a different universe. You may find that you are from someplace else. This is what I am finding with most people, that they are from a different universe of origin. And so I invite you not to get cut on your head with this, but just open up the possibility and just allow yourself to journey where you are called to be, to ground above you into the universe of origin. And seeing a beautiful light there greeting you. It can be gold, it can be a crystalline white light. And then seeing this energy, this light flowing back down into our universe, into our galaxy, through the Milky Way, into our sun. And then this energy and this beautiful light flowing into the crown of your head. And then enlivening each of your chakras in turn, all the way down, and then flowing up and around. And then seeing that we are all together in this beautiful bubble of light, that we are protected in this beautiful sphere. It's gold, silver with a little bit of teal. All energy that comes through today, all information is for the highest good, for each of us as individuals and for the collective. And any energy that might come through of lower vibration, it will just be sent back down into the earth. Everything that comes through is for our highest good. All right. So, coming into this space together, and whoever wants to start with a question is welcome to do so. And you can unmute yourself. Chelsea, do you want to start?
Hi, that was beautiful. Woo. I love the connecting to the universe part. That was really powerful. Thank you. Okay, this message or this question is actually from Dawn. She's not able to join. She says, send my love. She's showing her house, and so her question is, what is even time for me? And what she means, they're all like, what period is period, like time. She says, ask Christine how to reconnect to time or to protect me from the time distortion that's keeping us from meeting our true goals. She feels like something wants to undermine, not just her, but everyone.
Start small.
I know, right? I was like, sure, I'll ask her that.
Thank you. Tell her, send her a message back and say thank you.
I will.
All right. So I'm going to start off just with this kind of background. As we have been doing some clearing work lately, time has been a thing. These timelines have been a thing. And I don't know if anybody has been experiencing that trying to understand time in our dimension is hard. And I find when I'm doing readings for people, I'm like, trying to understand the soul, trying to put this into human terms, trying to understand time when we're talking about a continuity of the soul across our soul journey. So oftentimes I fumble with words with this topic because it's difficult in our 3D reality. So the first thing that I'm seeing is this idea of time being a ball. And so that, we think about time as being linear, and that time might be linear for a short period of time, but it also might be a spiral. And it might be that it is actually, like if we think about a ball of yarn, that it comes back and around and through, there's knots in it. And, and so we have these time periods where there's this time frame and this time frame, and there's an overlap into this current lifetime. So that the first thing that I'm seeing with that question is a ball. And I'm wondering if we are actually in a junction point. So, I mean, I think about this usually for individuals, but I'm wondering if we're actually in a junction point for our reality on this earth right now. And what is it that is coming through? Is there an obstacle at that junction point that needs to be addressed, that needs to be cleared? Because whenever anything of this information comes through, it's always like, and what can we do about it? Because it's a challenge when we're met with obstacles, and then it's like, okay, well, then what, right? So it does feel like there's an obstacle that is at that point, this junction point, for us to move across almost. And I'm curious if anybody's felt this. Yeah. Okay. Because what we've discovered is that there's a timeline distortion that has happened, where there's been an interference with the timeline. And I feel like that what's coming through with this is that there's actually an obstacle to move forward in time, for us to be journeying as we are supposed to in our lives. And so when we get into the space, like I said, everything is kind of fair game. And so the information that comes through is going to be all over the place as well. So I don't know if people are aware of artificial intelligence as being an interference in our world. But it's a thing. And what it feels like to me is that this interference of this timeline is actually artificial intelligence that is interfering. And it feels like something that was put into place a while ago. This feels like the World War II interference. There was something around 1940 to 1942 that got put into place. So this feels like this question of Dawn's feels like a bigger one. So I'm also curious if there's another layer to this that is more personal for some people, that there's more of an interference, that there's more of a distortion. That's the word she used, right? Was distortion, Chelsea. Like I'm seeing this kind of these waves that are coming forward, as if, like there's a person that's sitting here, and these waves are coming in and out and around. And it's like sound waves, like, when a music that they distort intentionally, it's like there's distortion that's coming in, like these waveforms. And it's like some people are more sensitive to that energy than other people. So some people are just like, I'm doing my thing, and other people are much more impacted by these interference waves, these distortions. And this isn't interference that's necessarily coming in from a malicious source. This feels more like some other cause. And I need to sit with this for a minute to see. It feels like it's something coming from this planet. It feels like something that's coming from Gaia, almost as a way that she is wanting to clear our world, like as a way of benefit. But some people are feeling it really strongly in a way that is not beneficial for them. And so this brings me back to this whole conversation about grounding then, because if we aren't connected to the earth, if we're not really present and here, then we're going to be more disrupted by all of the energies that are coming forward in this time. And I've heard somebody else talk about this, of the next few years are a challenge. Like, we've been experiencing this for a while and we're not done. We don't know what that looks like. It's not necessarily COVID, but there's a component of that isn't done, but there's more. And so we need to be grounded in order to thrive in the best way that we can. And so I think that that's really the message for that particular question, and one that we can expand upon if anybody wants. But I think that there's so much healing that needs to happen for us to get into what people call the golden age, that we can get caught up in that, and then we can't actually do the work that we're here to do. So that's what I think that's kind of the crux of that question for her. Okay. Jenny, did you have something?
Yeah, what I'm feeling, if we're allowed to comment on what you're, okay. The waves, like this feels like the birth canal. It feels like the compression and the squeezing, and it's really uncomfortable, and we're being like squeezed in order to be thrusted forward. And it feels like it's like a long, long birth. It feels to me like time, like I feel compressed, I feel squeezed, I feel really slow and sluggish, like I'm in like muck and I can't move, and my body feels it. It's like squeezed and tight, but it feels like, you know, when you squish like a bar of soap at it through your hands and it pops forward. I don't. That's kind of what I'm feeling when you said those waves coming forward at someone. It's like we're in the squeezy part, and then it'll open up, and that's kind of what I was feeling.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I think that there's a lot of analogies, things that are analogous to a birth, and it being a long process. That so that's not that feels right to me as well. That feels similar to this energy, and there's just something that wants to come through for just a second, Melissa, and then you're next. As you're talking about that with these waves, like, and then I was actually picturing a vagina, and so there's something that wants to come through about that energy, I think, that is very maternal, that I think that Gaia is actually saying, like, I'm not trying to hurt you. Like, this is a process of clarification and healing, but you've got to do your work, and you've got to be here in order to actually come through this process whole on the other side, or more whole on the other side. Okay. Wadessa?
So a couple things that just came up for me when the original question was asked around time. The first thing that actually came to me was this. I find it fascinating that right now in this time that Einstein's black hole has finally been discovered, right? Like that something 100 years ago that he mathematically could tell was there is now, right? They have a picture of it. And so when you were actually describing some of what you were seeing, I was seeing that image that I just seen recently of that. And then on the pace of time, I that's been probably the number one thing I've been fascinated by while being here is I think back that I have a grandmother born in a covered wagon, and think of all the technology advancement. I literally talk about the Pony Express and just the pace, the absolute pace of communication and the speed that has, it feels like it has sped up our world. Like our world is just simply going faster. So that's just my general feelings around time that came up for me when this topic was raised.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to address that, or do you have a question along with it, or just?
I don't think I have a question. Those have been the things, Christine, though, that the pace of time, the pace that we are at is the biggest thing I think I deal with in my world with conflict, and like seeing what all of this access and pace and speed of communication is doing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The other thing, since we're talking so much about Gaia, what I have heard before, and I want to expand upon with that question, or that comment, is about how the earth is so unhealthy in many ways. And so there used to be, people would have that they would drum, and that there would be a certain, tempo of the drumming. And it has speeded up, like that. It's like the heartbeat of the earth is going faster. And I wonder if there's something tied in to that idea about with time. How when you listen to music and you listen to something that is quite frenetic, and you start to your heart will increase, you start to entrain to that beat. Just like when we're around somebody else who's anxious, and we start to like feel, so it's like that empathic kind of response. And I'm just going to sit with that for a minute. And I'm feeling like Gaia is saying, yes, like this is part of what is happening, is that we are moving so fast. We are in a place where we can't settle, partly because of our own frenetic pace of constant connection and constant information, and that everything needed to happen 5 minutes ago. That we aren't in a place where we can actually connect. And what I'm feeling and hearing is, she's like, what if you were to slow down? What then? It feels like it's an invitation, to be present. It's an invitation to be. It's an invitation to not hurry. And what would that be like if we were to do it differently? And so I realized that we are caught up in an energy that we don't have control over, that is the bigger context. But what if, as individuals, we did it differently? What then? It's an interesting point of curiosity to explore that for us in our own personal space and lives. And what can come out of that for our lives to feel and look different? And it brings me back to this grounding question and this grounding topic of, if we can really connect into the earth, does that change something? Yeah. And Andrea is saying, I absolutely feel this. I felt like I am being urged to slow down, slow everything down. Yeah. Mhm. And let us is saying the same. My message has been rest. And it's a hard place to be, to do something different, to do it differently. Of the constant need to be busy, the constant need to be doing. Especially when we're all busy. When the majority of us have children that we're parenting and getting places, and and otherwise we're working, and so it's a lot. Shonda.
I might ask a question that will turn the conversation, so I apologize for that. But in reflecting on the faces that I see here in this virtual and esoteric circle, I'm wondering if there's a reason, aside from you inviting us, for us all to be present here this morning, if there's some kind of connection that's coming through.
Is there something specific that you're feeling already that you would like to expand
a
upon?
little bit. I mean, for what I popped on and I was like, oh, I know Shelley, Chelsea, you know what I mean? And then I was like, I feel like I know Ladessa and I don't know Ladessa. And little nuances of message and color. And I get a lot, I'm very, very visual. I'm a very visual person. So I get a lot of visual messages that may mean something to someone else, but not necessarily myself. So, but that was what threaded through and came up was that there's, when you're talking about resting and when you're talking about that's hard. And part of me was like, but if we lean into those that are resting as well, there's a greater strength and support in the action and the hardness of the action. And then it led me to maybe there's something here that I'm missing or that Christine can bring through that could connect some of those pieces for me.
Specifically about this group of women.
Yes.
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 Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it like just to reflect back on that, like I'm loving this, like this group that I can see on my screen here. It's really lovely to have. I'm just going to comment just a little bit of, you know, being able to see Renee, who's my dear friend in Illinois, and you know, and Ladessa, who doesn't live locally, and the rest of us that are on the peninsula. You know, it's really lovely to see this group of women here, and I think that this is what I'm feeling, Shonda, from that question, is that yes, there is absolutely something that is very profound about one. I'm going to make it very general, and then I'm going to bring it specific to this group of women gathering together. You know, it's important for men too as well, but I'm not a man, and so like this is the space that I exist in. That there's something very important about bringing women together in circle. And I realize that we're doing this virtually, and I would love to be in person, but there's also something really lovely about being able to connect people from different places. And so this is a connection point that we can have that is strong in this time of recognizing that, you know, we were forced a few years ago to spend a lot of time with these sorts of connections this way. And I feel like the beauty of the last few years is that this is a thing now, where it wasn't a thing before, as a way of gathering people together. And of the invitation for this time together today was for me to do something different, for me to do something new as part of this class that I'm doing. And I feel like there's, of what Shonda is tapping into, is something much bigger, of saying, why did all of you say yes to this morning? And then bringing in this question of rest, and this question, and what I'm feeling is the question of new, which is new for this time, but it's connecting back to the old. And so, and I feel like that's what this is that what if the group of us have done this before? What if we have been in circle together before as healing women, right? We all carry healing energy, all of us do. It comes forward in different ways in our lives, but there's something really powerful about connecting in a heart space. I see Jenny has her hand over her heart, and connecting in to this space from our heart, from our womb, from our third eye, and connecting into a deeper place of knowing and a different way of being. The word authentic has come up a lot for me lately, of how can we live authentically? What does it mean to live authentically? And to do something that is different than what we have been conditioned to do and to believe and behave. So this feels like an invitation. I'm going to have Julie read what Renee just wrote, so I don't get pulled into that for just a second, because I want to know what you said. That this authenticity of being present, of working towards something that we don't even know what we're working towards, but we are coming into this world and being present and showing up as different than what we are told that this is the way you need to behave and be. For me, this is medicine. This is how can I be a wise woman healer and not work in the system. And for each of us individually is how can we do our work in this world, and we don't have to do it like everybody else does it, that we can look and behave a little bit differently. I'm going to read a quote that is exactly to this. To live authentically, we often have to leave behind the reasonable, sensible option and learn to live with the pervasive uncertainty and sometimes the seeming madness of the unique path and calling presented to us. It's Kieran LaGrace, I believe is the name of the person. So there's something about this group, this calling together today, that is a reminder of living authentically, connecting to ourselves and our heart and listening deeply, and connecting to, we're talking about time, we're talking about our soul journey, connecting to the truth of who we are. All right, Julie, would you read what Renee wrote?
Well, I think it went right to you because I don't see it.
Oh, you don't. Oh, you sent it to me directly. Okay. Do you mind if I read it out loud? Is that okay? Okay. It's fascinating. I don't know many on the screen and had no idea where today would lead, but knew I wanted to be here. I have been thinking about and practicing the rest and presence for a few years now and have been wondering how to magnify this important notion of rest and power at the same time. If I had a question, it would be, how do we as a group magnify this to reach the masses who don't have a clue about this? Beautiful question. Well, I keep thinking about you and your counseling practice as doing this one-on-one with people. And I know that it's probably something that you transmit when you're holding space for people. And yoga. So just reflecting very personally for you, but I'm just like, again, I'm looking at each person who's on the screen. Like there's just something really powerful about each person who's here. And I could see for each woman, like, oh, I can see how you would do that. I can see how you would do that. I mean, it's just really, really beautiful. So let's see if I can bring something through that's about that. See what wants to come through. Gaia is very present today. That's the energy that I'm feeling so strongly. When we live differently, we become a role model, and people see us and say, "Oh, how are you doing that? How are you being? How are you living? How are you existing that isn't the same as everyone else? And how can I have a piece of that?" Like, we're kind of afraid to step out on our own, to be authentic, to be unique. But yet when we see people who are truly authentic and living their lives that way, we want that. We want to be that. We want to be courageous. And it feels like the essence of this conversation feels like, come back to yourself, live authentically. And then that has these ripple effects that then transmits to other people. So this isn't getting out on the street corner and preaching rest to people. Be lovely, but I think that these are individual ways of living that is different. And I think about how busy, again, coming back to how busy our lives are, and what are the ways that we can bring forth a little bit of change to ourselves, where we don't feel like we have to be frenetic all the time, that we aren't living frenetically. And then for those of us that have, that we work at the community level, then how can that look like, Ladessa, you with your work at a legislative level? Like, I don't even know, can rest come through at that level for these organizations? Shelley, for you as working in the medical system, like you spend a little bit of time with a family, a little bit of extra time where you just transmit a little bit of calm, and those of us with children, how can we change the way that we parent, where we slow down a little bit? Because I know that this is not my forte. I go busy, and most of us do. And so if we were to take this question and say, if we were to parent differently, if we were to say, today I'm going to do it differently, today I'm going to bring in more rest, then what would that look like for our children to learn something different? Because that's the greatest way we're going to bring anything forward, is for the next generation.
May I say something, Chris?
Of course.
I'm almost I'm appreciative of sharing, like, that each of us is by being a living example of this, right? That we are doing it and magnifying it that way. And I also am feeling that, like, there's a part of me I'm getting this image where it's like all of our individual prayers and when we tune in and when we ground, that we can, like, send it up into the universe and into the earth and connect to each other, even from afar, right? And, like, magnify it that way, where it can rain down together. That way we support each other in the work. I almost want to create a poster of the screen that I'm seeing right now so that I can remember these powerful women that are in the world doing the same thing, even if our work is very different, to have this sense of, I don't know, we're stronger in numbers, right? And we're supported in numbers. And so just feeling like, I don't know, just this sense of almost like fungi across the universe connecting to each other. We can connect to each other that way and have a far-reaching effect, not just for other people, but for ourselves too.
Yeah, and those images are really beautiful of seeing, just like we did that grounding meditation in the beginning. It's like we can send these prayers and these intentions up and down, as a way to connect differently, to connect wholly. And I mean that in both ways that you can spell it. That there's this really deep connection, because we think about grounding down. We think about that that's the only direction, or that we're so spiritual that we're only stuck up in our head, right? But what we're really working on is connecting up and down and being connected both ways. So what if the way that we intend, the way that we live our lives, then that we start to inform both directions? And then this image of the mycelium and the fungi and all of this connection down in the earth, where we talk about how that there is this same connection across the entire planet, or at least at a continent level, right? And so that when we do our work and we are grounded and we're sending this energy down into the earth, we don't even know what the impact necessarily is of that. But when we intend to be present and to really, really live authentically and in a grounded way, that's beautiful. It's beautiful and feels really true. Jenny?
You mentioned that you don't really know, you're normally busy and you don't run as rested, or that feels, I feel the same. And I wonder, who are we if we are rested? Like, it's almost incomprehensible right now. Like, we have to, like, get up and over that hump of actually being rested so we can find that new way of being. And what I'm feeling too, I was having a conversation with a friend of how this feels really lonely right now. And I think maybe this is why seeing these faces and having these conversations are like connecting people who are feeling the same thing. I have this sense of we're awake for a reason, because we need to sort out our shit right now so that we can be there for the mass of people. I keep seeing this vision of like, it might be like Mother Goose or someone where she's like bringing all the children under her skirts. And like, so I feel this sense of like this mother figure or this person who is grounded and has sorted things out, and she's coming from this very grounded present place to scoop in all the people who are now panicking and freaking out and don't know what to do. And I feel like these groups of people are finding their leadership and their way individually and in these small groups so that we can connect in this fungi way, or however you want to say it, like this woven web that we just know that we're there, and we feel this like this webbing, this interface of like how we can draw from each other.
Mhm. The imagery is really beautiful, and seeing it almost as a grid as you were talking, that points of light, that as we live and do our work, that we are points of light in this scheme and this grid, in this fungi. I have to keep using that, this way that we are connected at a community level, and that, yeah, as we do our work and we are available for people, because we're awake a little bit before other people might be. We have our eyes open and we're really doing our work. I hope that we're doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing, right? Exactly. That then we are a beacon. We are the catalyst. All the words that I know apply to the work that I'm here to do in this lifetime, and I have a feeling that probably apply to the rest of the people here. That we are exactly that. We are here, and we gather the people together when they're struggling, is particularly because the world is hard. It's not just the pandemic. It's a lot. It's a lot of healing. It is that birth canal. I mean, the same imagery just keeps coming through. There's a lot of healing that's happening. So absolutely. So we can continue the same conversation, or if there's any other questions that are of different topic, we can shift as well.
I have a question, but I don't want to like, I feel like I'm talking more than other people. I don't want to be like,
Don't worry about it.
I don't know. I don't know if this is too specific, so I guess we'll just kind of see if anybody else is relating. And I don't know if I've shared this with you before, Christine, but there's like this rumble in my head that I can't let go. I don't know why it's there. I don't know how to release it. I don't know how to resolve it. And it's not like tinnitus. It's not like a high pitch. It's almost like this like generator. It's this like constant rolling motor, and it's not in my ears. It's like in my brain. It's in the center of my head, and I can hear it anytime I stop and pay attention. And I don't know if it's like a structural physical thing or if it's a messaging of some kind. And I don't know if any others are feeling it, or if there's something that will come through for what it is.
Okay. Well, let's tap into that. So what I first asked if it's specific to you, and I'm getting no. This does feel related to AI. It feels like related to an energy that's coming through that's non-beneficial. And you happen to have something in you that could benefit from being removed, that is allowing it to transmit. So you are not alone in this experience. You are just able to articulate it in a way that maybe not everybody can. Everybody may have a different way that they're experiencing it, depending upon where the vulnerabilities are. Because when I do clearing work, and I know for other people that are doing this work as well, finding implants, devices, not to bring fear, but that stuff is there. does exist, and that depending upon where it comes in, then that increases your vulnerability to receiving the impulses and energies from outside of us. So that AI energy, what it feels like is it's coming into your head, and then is it then transmitted out in that way. That's what I'm feeling.
Are there suggestions of how to get rid of it?
Come talk to me another time.
Okay. Okay.
Or I can send you to somebody else, but there's that for a different space. Chelsea.
I had what I was gonna say. Now I'm like trying to reroute. Let's see. As a clearer, I know the answer to that. So I'm trying to, let's see. There are though, so as we push out the stuff, right? As we raise our vibration, our frequency, which is like what I see too, all these women here, like we are these beacons, just like you said, which is why we feel so connected. So as we do all of those things, my gosh, I'm sorry, what is my question? How, like I've been experiencing, you know, like a ringing and a fluttery in my ear, and I know what that is. I know that that is of divine and the things. So I guess my question is, for the ones that don't know, like, how do you know when you're connected to that so that you know for sure, right? That's
right. That is a big question. Like, how do we know we're clear and that we're connecting to truth as opposed to receiving interference? Does that feel like one distillation of the question? I think that this is, as we do this work and we talk about the blasted layers, that there's always more to work through. But when we get to a certain place of clarity, then I think we can get to a place that we can trust what we're receiving. But there's always that question of, or let me back up and say, when we put ourselves into a space like this, I mean, it was very intentional that we got into a grounded space and that we have protection around us, just because, you know, there's energy that exists in the world that is non-beneficial, right? We acknowledge that is true. And so we get to a place where we are working on our clarity, working on our what word do I want? Our trust that what we are receiving is true, but then we always have to kind of fact check, because there are, you know, beings that will masquerade as a being of truth, and they're not. It happens with Archangel Michael. It can happen with others, and so just knowing that sometimes we have to get enough experience that we trust what is coming through. And I feel like I'm coming back, Jenny, I'm coming back to you because you seem like you just got squashed. Like we need to bring your the questions that I ask are, is this of love? Is this of light? Is this of wisdom? And when information is coming through or beings are coming through and they're not able to answer yes to all three of those, then those beings get sent away. Right? And so sometimes we just have to have our ways of distilling truth and bringing us back to us. And bringing through the energies where we are clearing ourselves, and that this is a daily process where we are intending our own clarity. Chelsea, do you have any follow-ups on there? Follow-ups on that?
Yeah, it felt like it needed to be said so that as we're all here, we can, you know, recognize, and as we are being the beacons, you know, like it's really important that we recognize that, so we can stay clear. And because it happens, I mean, it happens to me too. Like it's not, I'm not susceptible. But as we are raising our vibration and our frequency, that's just going to happen. And so you know, the grounding, I think, like you're saying, is so important. Just the grounding and the net of protection. Like I'm still learning about this grounding. I mean, I know it. We've talked about it, but it's just really, I think, you know, I hear and I see and I feel Gaia, like, just come into me. Just, this is a safe place. This is where you need to be. Like the imagery that Jenny said, which is so beautiful. Like she's Mother Goose almost, right? She's like, come in, you know, like I see it. That was such a beautiful way of saying that. So anyway.
Mhm. And that we often just back to that, the grounding topic. And I know for you that there's been resistance about grounding, and that's not an uncommon thing to be. I mean, I have my own level of that. It's taken, you know, trying to piece through the layers of why are we resistant? What is it that's in our past or our present that has made it difficult for us to be here and to want to be here, right? I mean, this world is hard. And for those of us that are not, you know, that this, you know, the density of Earth is difficult. And just recognizing and acknowledging that. And I think that is, you know, back to this idea of us being beacons, is that is the support that other people need. It's a recognition of, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to be here. And, you know, taking this conversation to teenagers and to children is an acknowledgement that this world is a challenge to be in sometimes, and that our work is to help people to be here and to work through those blockages and those resistance to actually being embodied. The floor is open for any other questions or comments.
Okay, I do have one more. Oh, sorry, Julie. No, you go. Or Ladessa.
And Ladessa, we've got 3 people all at once.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute.
I just want to comment real quick. I have one of my dogs in here with me. He clears too. And we're talking about rest, and he's asleep during all of this. And we've got other stuff outside too, and everything's very calm. They're all resting. And I feel like they're a good tool for us to use and to watch, to learn how to rest, because they're not, I mean, he's only 2. He should be bouncing around by a standard, right? But
he normally is.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, I felt like that needed to be, I don't know, noted, mentioned, talked about, kind of like tapping into the animal world and learning from them more.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for that.
Mhm.
All right, Ladessa.
So I've already started my little list of the things I'm going to connect to you on around personal things. So if this is one of those, I'll put it on that list. But what I'm noticing is, as I'm starting to lean into rest and starting to learn about that and trying to put it as a practice, and I am showing up in my professional space in a more calm way, which is probably more of like who I was when I first came to the profession versus the part of me that's had to keep up with legislative pace and those kinds of ridiculous things. But what I'm noticing is people around me who want and expect my energy to be the previous
Mhm.
energy, and it feels like it's throwing them off. And I feel like I have like a specific colleague in my life who's like, are you okay all the time? And I'm like, it's like almost like, and I don't carry her guilt, but it's almost like I feel like the rest. So the broader question, I guess, was, I don't know if it's about a protective light around others, or is there a way to make our transition? I'm just noticing that that piece is coming up as I'm getting calmer. It's maybe almost bringing up an anxiety in another. And is there anything we should be doing or could be doing to reduce that as we become healthier, as we get deeper into the rest? Is there any responsibility we have for those around us to offer something that makes it easier for them?
No.
Not my bag.
I will expand. I will expand. When we do our work, it is not our responsibility to take care of other people around us. Of course, we care about those around us, and we are going to be as caring as we can, but we still have to do our own work. And so when we raise our vibration, when we live in a place of authenticity, that can be threatening to other people, because it makes them look at themselves and say, oh, am I still okay? Like, she's different. Like, what's different? Like, the stability of that environment has shifted because you're different. And that doesn't mean that you have to behave differently, because you are being authentic. You have healed so much, and you've worked through the PTSD, and not that it's done, but like the amount of work that you've done to get to this place where you're back to you, right? And so that you can show up and be authentic. And then other people are like, now what? She's not swearing and she's not, right? So this is our work, is to live authentically and to be as high a vibration as we can be in our world. And it may be to a point where we can't exist within that space anymore, that we are the ones who have to exit, because it isn't in our highest good to be there anymore. Okay, who is this? Andrea. I'm going to read this out loud, Andrea. I'm not sure if this is too personal. Lately, I have had such a strong feeling of almost being lost, feeling that I don't belong in this universe, and that I almost feel foreign to crowds and people around me at times. As I calm my life down more and detach from the chaos and tap into my authenticity, I feel as if I don't know where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. I don't think that's too personal. I think that is actually a really good one to talk about. So thank you. Yes, I think the first thing I want to do is just acknowledge the truth of what you just said, because that is not an uncommon place for us to be when we are going through healing and we are coming back to ourselves. And you may be in a place where you don't know who you are. You don't know where you're supposed to be. And it's okay to be in that place. It may not feel okay, but the invitation is to, Shonda, did you talk about leaning in? I think you used that, right? Of leaning into this discomfort and allowing yourself to push the boundary, a little bit of discomfort, so then you can be shown what is the truth for you. It can be the truth of a relationship. It can be the truth of a living situation. It can be the truth of job, or even just something that is entirely personal to you, of the way that you live your life. And whether that is through diet, through clothing, from the very material to the very deeply spiritual, right? And so it's giving yourself the opportunity to really dive deep. And sometimes that place is very uncomfortable. And sometimes we need somebody else to help us guide. We need a guide to take us through that, because we feel so out of our element and out of place. So sometimes that can be, you know, an energy person to help with, that can be a counselor, you know, but just recognizing that is showing you truth. That discomfort is showing you truth. You're welcome. We have time for a couple more if there's anything else that wants to be brought up.
I have something. It's not even, it's completely different. Where are we heading in the medicine world? Small, tiny question. It's no big
Small,
deal.
tiny question that has no relevance to me or anyone else.
No.
All right. The system is going to fall apart. And we are all being asked to drop back into ourselves as our authority. And that is threatening to providers. It is threatening to the system. And it feels like these things are happening simultaneously, that people are already bringing themselves back to their truth and starting to, not everyone, but people are starting to come back into their own authority of taking care of themselves, health, in terms of health. And I know what that's like when you go to see a provider, because I've experienced this. And, you know, somebody's like questioning, like doing it differently than what we normally do. And I find myself like sticking to the party line and saying like, this is my recommendation. And then I'm like, why am I, because the system is telling, you know. So I know that on a level where we're meeting with practitioners and providers, there is a word. Can everybody get this? Not really butting heads, but there's a conflict. That's the word I want. Lotus, I had to look at you. There's a conflict within the system. And it feels like there is both the internal disarray that is within medicine, because we aren't really healthcare. This is, you know, whatever is really happening on the medical level is in healthcare. And there's conflict that is happening because people are struggling with their lack of health on an individual level. Providers are struggling because the system doesn't support them. And then individuals are saying, this isn't right. Like, I want something different. And so it feels like that within the system, there is a ton of conflict. And it's like there is this pressure that is building, both that is building from within, and the external structure is just going to fall apart. We've seen it. We've seen how unstable it is with the pandemic. So it feels to me like we're going to start going back to something that is much more grassroots. That's what I'm feeling.
And with doing that, do you feel like, because I'm experiencing this, we have to, like before I do, you know, the flower essences that you've given me or made, or no, I don't have the word, comes in liquid form.
Tinctures.
Tinctures and all of the things, the Vemergy, things in liquid form, the I'm finding what?
Homeopathics.
Yes, that I have to like change my kids' vibration in order for them to actually take it and for it to work.
Can you expand upon that a little bit?
Yeah, like I know that when I was moving from, where I was raising my other two kids into the, medical industry and the checkups and the stuff, moving them out of that and then into a more homeopathic state, I had to change, just change their vibration. And I did that by just making them hold it until they kind of synced up with it, because they were still, at this lower vibration, which seems to be what the medical system in most cases, I feel, works at, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these are different. So I don't know if I had a question or if you've experienced that or.
No, I haven't, but that's interesting. And I absolutely agree that the medical system works at a lower vibration. And it's something I've been thinking about a lot recently. How individual practitioners kind of get stuck within the system and are not as awake as we would hope them to be. And for a number of reasons. And so the system by design is lower vibration, and then individuals stuck within the system tend to be as well. And so what I'm feeling from your question is how much of that then gets transmitted to children? How much of that is getting transmitted to us as individuals because we're existing within that system and we're feeling like healthcare has to exist at that vibrational level? And just like we're talking about us as beacons, are we doing something different? Are we as individuals then not in vibrational match with the system? So then we can't receive care from the system itself as well, right? And so, it feels to me like it's just a vibrational level that we're having each individual needing to increase and raise. Does that feel like it gets at what you're talking about? Okay. Jenny?
I don't know if this is a question or a comment, but with this new bird flu that's going around, is this an attack on the self-sustenance that's trying to emerge? It just feels like a block of stop doing this, and it feels like a test of just where we're trying to go, where we're trying to move forward, and it just, I don't know, it feels really not a coincidence.
You're not the only one to have brought this up in the last 2 days. It's been a conversation from a couple of us in this group here.
Okay.
So yeah, Julie brought it up the other day. So yes, I've been contemplating that as well, and the conversation that we had, and I will expand upon a little bit, is that those who were not as impacted on a level by the pandemic, and decided let me rephrase that. People that made a decision to say, I am going to live differently, and I'm going to separate myself from the system a little bit. I'm going to start to do my own thing, and then this bird flu coming through saying, and you will stop. You do not have the authority to be doing this yourself. And so it does absolutely feel like that is a potential energy that is coming through of interference, I guess is my best word to use there. And I think the conversation that we have been holding today is for us to come in as individuals, to live authentically, to be grounded, to be in community. And we are going to, there's some things that we don't have control over, right? There's some things that we just can't. And there's going to be some things that are going to come from outside that we don't have control over. But what I'm feeling really strongly with all of this conversation, and then with that question, is that we are here to do our work. and that we are here, even though there are these threats that are to our livelihood and to our health, that our work as individuals is to do it differently, and to say, I recognize that this is coming through, that this is a possibility, and I'm still going to live, and I'm going to live authentically, and I'm going to do my best to be the beacon.
I just wanted to comment on that. I had a little daydream this morning, and it was like the worst thing that we could do is give up or give in or lose hope or not believe, right? The word believe was like super huge in my third eye projection. So just to add to that, like it definitely feels very relevant as beacons, right?
Mhm.
I really like that word.
Whoever first said it in this group, thank you. Beacon is lovely. I think that is it's a beautiful image. And I think that is exactly what the message is. Like, this feels like a cohesive conversation today. And that feels like it's reminding ourselves of who we are. It's believing and trusting in the bigger wisdom of ourselves and in Gaia and in the highest level guides, helpful ancestors. Like, we are supported, we are surrounded, we have a community of energy that is here to support us. And we are existing within, we each have our own, like, here's the image that I just had, is that we are existing within our own little pod, and our pods are overlapping. It's like we've got these Venn diagrams, like this more of this like fungi sort of imagery. Like, so we have these Venn diagrams all over the world where we have this interconnection of our support. Like, we're not alone. I mean, that's the message I hear all of the time. Like, I'm writing in my journal or I hear it in my head. You are not alone. I hear it all the time. And so I think it is this place to come back. Like, we are here to do our individual work, but we're not doing it in solitary confinement. Like, we are here supported both by this planet and by community and by the energies that exist that we can't see with our eyes. Any final thoughts, comments, questions? It's big. Yes. Jenny said it's big. All right. Do we feel like we're complete, or is there any one last thing?
I just want to say how grateful I am. This has been such a wonderful call, and I almost didn't make it. I was seconds from not being able to be here. And I'm just so grateful. Thank you so much for inviting me for this. I only got your second email. I didn't get the first one. So if you hadn't sent the reminder, I wouldn't have known. But I just feel really, really grateful for this call. And my body's been chills up and down my spine the whole time. So I just wanted to say thank you so much I'm really grateful I got to be included. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for that feedback. Okay, I am going to stop the recording. And then if anybody wants to, let me just stop the recording and